Esmeralda is my favorite Disney heroine from my favorite Disney film, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She is an incredible character, full of kindness, bravery, courage, and resilience. This video shall be discussing Esmeralda from the Disney film, not Esmeralda from the Victor Hugo novel, which is on my to-read list, along with hundreds of other books. My name is Zarina Matcha, and you're watching The Rational Female. If you enjoy my content, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. I have seen some discussions about Esmeralda representing the Madonna-Whore Dichotomy. For those who are unfamiliar, this was coined by Sigmund Freud, who suggested that some men struggle to see their wives as sexual partners because they viewed their wives as pure and representing their mothers. They were only able to view women as either chaste and motherly or purely there for sex. I think that everyone, male and female, actually suffers from this split when it comes to who we are attracted to. For women, this can be dubbed alphas and betas, to use contemporary language. Alpha males are the sexy bad boys you view as desirable for a good time in the bedroom, while beta males are the safe, reliable men you would marry and have children with. I don't think that this is a male-specific problem. We just have much more written theory on the male perspective, but not as much on the female perspective. This is likely because feminism has placed so much time analyzing how men view women, usually through a negative lens, rather than equally looking at how women view men. I think that the Madonna-Whore Dichotomy is a deep-rooted psychological problem that may have evolutionary roots and has been popularized through religion. Both men and women have different mating strategies, and it's been theorized that women in secure relationships have the biological urge to cheat in order to pass on better genes to future children. Men have a need to spread their seed with as many fertile females as possible, but long-term, they may choose to commit to one woman, form a long-term bond with her, and raise children with only her. I don't think that humans are either monogamous or polyamorous. I think we are a mix of both, and this presents in how we may view some people as good for just a physical relationship and others good for a more long-term relationship. It's a sad truth that people often get bored in long-term relationships. One may say that it's unrealistic to expect yourself to only want to sleep with one person for the rest of your life. Marriage in the past was often arranged and people died a lot earlier, so if you got married at 16, you would likely be with one person for about 2 decades, not 5. Esmeralda is a fantastic example of a woman who strikes a positive balance between being both sexual and nurturing. This makes her realistic. No woman is wholly a Madonna or a whore, nor is any man wholly a alpha or a beta in terms of our personality. I think that most people are a mix of the two, and this can present differently. Environment, culture, religious background, sex drive, and sense of self-worth all greatly contribute to your relationship with your sexuality. The School of Life has some excellent videos on this. One video I particularly love, titled Intimacy and Closeness, talks about how the longer you are romantically involved with someone, the less likely you are to want to sleep with them. In marriages, women's sex drives tend to wane, and women tend to want sex less over time compared to men. So this is not necessarily just a male issue. Men cheat usually because of physical needs and opportunity, whereas women cheat usually due to a lack of emotional satisfaction. Both sexes often desire novelty and excitement. For many, it can get very boring sleeping with the same person for years. For others, this can be wonderful. Now let's examine Esmeralda. The first shot we see of her is of her playing the tambourine and smiling flirtatiously at Captain Phoebus. This immediately posits her sensual nature, offering a stark contrast to some other Disney heroines. It makes her appear more adult in comparison. We then see her confront the guards who accuse her of stealing the money that she earned. Esmeralda is depicted as feisty and assertive, someone who isn't afraid to stand up for herself. She is street smart and knows how to look after herself, likely because she has lived a rough life on the streets as a gypsy. Captain Phoebus's reaction is quite interesting. When he sees the buskers, he gives them money before he even notices Esmeralda, showing that he isn't simply helping because there is a pretty girl involved. He is genuinely supportive. He then helps her escape from the guards. This immediately sets him up as a good man, which to my knowledge is quite different from his portrayal in the novel. He cares about justice and doesn't condemn Esmeralda simply because she is a gypsy. Instead, he helps her. This mixture of attraction and respect becomes important later. Later on, at the Feast of Fools, we see Esmeralda again when Quasimodo accidentally pulls her curtain down. After her initial shock, she immediately asks him, "Are you alright?" She is very kind to him, which shows that she is a warm and caring person. The line, "By the way, great mask," always made me feel uncomfortable because she genuinely believes he is wearing a mask and is trying to be kind. She is not making fun of him at all. Her infamous dance scene is heavily debated among viewers. Personally, having seen this film about 30 times, I don't think it's particularly inappropriate for a children's film. Yes, it's sexually suggestive, but she is fully clothed and most children won't understand the subtext. The whole point of the Feast of Fools is that it's a time to let loose and behave a little wildly. Esmeralda is a performer. She teases Frollo as part of the performance because he is the authority figure and she is subtly mocking him. The ancient Roman pagan tradition of Saturnalia is said to have inspired the medieval Feast of Fools. It was all about abandoning social norms and eating, drinking, and being merry. If that sounds familiar, then yes, Christmas was originally Saturnalia. That's why every year for the past several years, I say Happy Saturnalia instead of Merry Christmas. When Quasimodo is crowned the King of Fools, he is publicly humiliated by the crowd. It's a horrible scene, and it's quite telling that Esmeralda is the only person who directly intervenes. Phoebus does say to Frollo, "Request permission to stop this cruelty." When Esmeralda stands above Quasimodo, she is backlit to appear almost angelic. This reinforces the Madonna aspect of her character. In Quasimodo's eyes, she is an angel-like figure, a woman who has come to free him. She wipes his face and stands up to Frollo. Frollo is an oppressive ruler. He is a megalomaniacal religious fanatic who persecutes and terrorizes the gypsies and underclass. Esmeralda rightfully stands up for her people who are suffering under his regime. I don't know much about the history of the Romani people, but within the context of the film, it's obvious that they are portrayed as an underclass persecuted by a religious fanatic. This is a man who murders a woman within the first few minutes of the film and then nearly drowns her baby. He then spends the next 20 years psychologically abusing that child. Esmeralda manages to escape the guards and hides in Notre Dame Cathedral. This is where she and Phoebus properly meet. Again, on Phoebus's part, there is a mix of attraction to her and respect for her bravery and fierce nature. He tells her to claim sanctuary in the church. This is a form of chivalry. Instead of arresting Esmeralda, Phoebus wants to protect her. The archdeacon, who we saw earlier in the film, comes out and tells Frollo to leave Esmeralda alone. I think that he poses a good contrast to Frollo. The archdeacon represents the side of Christianity, or religion in general, that espouses love, tolerance, humility, piety, dedication to God, and quite morally positive values. Frollo represents oppression, dogma, control via fear and submission, and intolerance for those that don't abide to his beliefs. Religion is complex because it's constantly fighting between these two polarities. One of the reasons I love this movie is that it shows the duality of religion. I myself am an atheist and generally don't support religion, but I enjoy symbolism and metaphor in stories. While Phoebus and the archdeacon leave, Frollo comes and threatens Esmeralda. He has now shifted from contempt to lust, putting her in the whore category. In his eyes, she is an object of desire and represents everything he disagrees with. She is also a gypsy, someone he views as beneath him. After singing God Help the Outcasts, a song about social justice and harmony, Esmeralda sees Quasimodo again and interacts with him. She is the first person who has ever been kind to Quasimodo. It's only natural that he would have a crush on her. Now, his physical appearance aside, he is far too emotionally immature and childlike to be a suitable romantic mate for her. I believe that even if he was handsome, she would still view him more as a younger brother because she is more emotionally mature and streetwise than he is. He is naive while she is worldly. For example, Quasi doesn't realize that Frollo is a cruel man and sees him as the person who took him in when no one else would. Yet Esmeralda understands that Frollo is abusive. She asks to look at Quasi's palm to show him that neither of them are monsters and that Frollo is wrong. This is perhaps the way you would explain this to a child. When Quasimodo helps her escape, Esmeralda gives him a kiss on the cheek. I interpret this as her being playful, not manipulative. She is trying to help him relax because he is very nervous. She has just offered for him to come with her. Again, it shows her as someone who is sensual but not malicious. The songs Heaven's Light and Hellfire represent the two sides of how Esmeralda is viewed, but also the two sides of religion. Quasi's song is innocent, naive, and vulnerable, and wishing that she would be with him. He is entirely pure of heart. Frollo's, on the other hand, is a decry of his inner turmoil. His religion talks heavily about sin, and she is the forbidden fruit, something he is not supposed to want yet deeply desires. He does not love or care for Esmeralda. He is an evil man who is obsessed with her and wants to possess her, and if she doesn't choose him, he will kill her. That is insanity. This is a psychopathic man who sings a song that captures something so deeply human as lust. Frollo blames Esmeralda for his lust. He calls her a siren and a witch, as if she is deliberately manipulating him. Yet she is not. Esmeralda is not a manipulative woman. Again, her dance at the Feast of Fools was part of the performance. Clearly she despises Frollo because she shouted at him at the feast and told him off in the church when he held her in a headlock. Frollo is the one who is obsessed with her. She represents everything he hates. He believes that gypsies practice witchcraft, which again goes against his religion. Europe has a long history of witch trials and executions carried out by Christian zealots. It's quite frightening how ignorance can corrupt people and make us do such evil things under the guise of acting righteously. There is an interesting contradiction here, which religious fanatics are never aware of. Frollo believes himself to be morally pious, while Esmeralda is the evil witch. Yet, as we can see, it's really the other way around. Esmeralda is the good one, while Frollo is the evil one. Frollo starts torturing people because he is obsessed with wanting to find Esmeralda. He orders Phoebus to burn the millers, and when Phoebus refuses, Frollo calls him an insolent coward. Phoebus saves the millers, and then Frollo decides to execute him. Esmeralda saves Phoebus' life twice. First, she throws a stone to stop Phoebus from being beheaded, and then she drags him out of the water because somehow she is superhumanly strong enough to do this. Now, Esmeralda is quite an idealized character, but she is also quite realistic. She is assertive, beautiful, highly virtuous and caring, but also sensual and flirty. She is an example of how a woman doesn't have to be utterly sexless or overtly sexual. She is neither a Madonna nor a whore. Instead, she represents the whole woman. The person who sees this the most clearly is Phoebus. She brings him to Quasi and stitches Phoebus' wound, and then the two kiss. I love this scene because it's incredibly realistic. In this film, unlike in most Disney films, the main guy doesn't get the main girl, and that's true to life. Most people can relate to unreciprocated romantic feelings and heartbreak. Most people have been in Quasimodo's shoes, watching someone you like go off with someone else, or simply not feel the same way about you. It happens to everyone, male and female. I don't remember ever finding this scene sad. I think I understood that it made sense. Quasi is too emotionally immature to be with Esmeralda. Emotionally, he is a child, while Phoebus is a grown man. With Quasi comes attraction, but idealization. With Frollo comes lust, obsession, and greed. With Phoebus comes attraction and respect, which creates real love. Phoebus is also a genuinely good person. When he and Quasi go to the Court of Miracles and Esmeralda thanks him, Phoebus looks at Quasi and says, "Don't thank me, thank Quasimodo." He is not just a handsome soldier, he is a good, honest, courageous, brave man who acts honorably. In a way, he's also an idealized male character. When Esmeralda is about to be burned alive, Frollo says she is guilty of the crime of witchcraft. He says, "Choose me or the fire," and Esmeralda bravely spits in his face. Then comes the most iconic scene. Quasi frees himself from his chains. Using religious symbolism, the forces of good, or God in this story, compel Quasimodo to free himself from his chains and swing down to rescue Esmeralda. Perhaps it is Notre Dame coming to life to aid Quasi to fight against Frollo, not just for years of abusing him, but also for abusing the people in this city. Later, when Quasi and Esmeralda are hanging off the edge of the church, Frollo says, "And he shall smite the wicked and plunge them into the fiery pit." It's a powerful and ironic scene. To me, it reads as divine justice. Frollo is the wicked who gets plunged into a literal fiery pit. There's definitely some supernatural intervention going on in this movie. When the gargoyle statue crumbles and appears to come to life, one could interpret this as God finally passing judgment and condemning Frollo for all of his evil. The evil are punished and the righteous are rewarded, which most religions promise. However, the irony is that Frollo is the religious man, he views himself as righteous, while Phoebus, Quasi, and Esmeralda are, in his eyes, the traitors and the sinners. When Quasi puts Esmeralda's and Phoebus's palms together and smiles, it shows he has now accepted them as friends and is purely happy for them. That is wonderful character development, and it shows Quasi has now matured and become a stronger, braver man. The film ends with Quasimodo being carried off by the villagers, the same people who mocked and laughed at him earlier in the film. To some extent, I read this as a bit dark, as it shows how quickly people will change their minds and be swayed by the majority viewing. Nonetheless, it's a beautiful ending. Esmeralda lives happily with the man that she loves, and Quasi is the hero of the entire story. This film does not highlight romance at the center of its plot. I don't know why people act like Frozen was so groundbreaking when The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Mulan have already done the same thing. They don't center a romantic relationship between the two main characters as the happy ending. This film ends with personal triumph. The Hunchback of Notre Dame reminds me of The Shawshank Redemption, which is another one of my all-time favorite films. It shows religious hypocrisy, hellish hardship, and then a happy ending with a man triumphing against all odds. While Quasimodo is the protagonist of this movie, the film generally revolves around Esmeralda. He becomes the hero by rescuing the woman who stood up for him publicly, showed him kindness, and pushed him to become a braver man. This to me shows that men and women can bring out the best in each other. A lot of men say that their wife made them a better man. A good woman can push a man to be his best self, while a good man can provide a woman with security and comfort. Esmeralda is an incredible character who endures severe hardship and yet ends happily. She is a virtuous, kind woman who is also comfortable with her sexuality. Phoebus sees her for who she is. For a kids' movie, it's incredibly realistic, mature, wholesome, and well thought out. So yeah, I do love this movie, and I love Esmeralda, Quasimodo, and Phoebus. I think that Frollo is a fantastically written villain. He is one of Disney's most evil villains, and he's not cartoonish like some of the others. He is incredibly stern and cold. A lot of people don't like the gargoyles in this movie, but personally I love them and think they provide some much needed lightness for a children's movie that would otherwise be far too dark. For me, this is the perfect movie. What are your thoughts on the Hunchback of Notre Dame film and on Esmeralda in general? Do let me know below. For regular essays critiquing feminism, follow my Rational Female Substack. Link is available here or in the description below. To support the channel further, consider buying me a coffee via this link. Your support really helps me out a lot.